country. We are so lucky to have Senator Edward M. Kennedy.
Thanks. Well, I wanted to come to Michigan State, but I wanted to play football, so I went to Harvard instead. Give a nice round of applause. I told my wife, Vicki, I was going to Michigan State. She said, I want to be there with all those great supporters of John Kerry. For all of his kind words. I was with John just a few hours ago, actually. We were out, saw a number of you out in Iowa, out in New Hampshire. And we were just going into a rally, and I said to John Kerry, I said, John, did you ever think, when you were a young man, that you would go over to Vietnam and become a war hero? Come back to the United States, get elected to the United States Senate, and then go on to be the leading candidate for President of the United States of the Democratic Party. Did you ever think that that might happen to you when you were young? He said, no. Aren't I lucky? He said, let me ask you a question. I said, ask it to me. He said, let me ask you, when you were young, did you ever think that you'd grow up to be the uncle-in-law of an Austrian bodybuilding Republican governor of the state of California? I said, no, aren't I lucky? It's great to be here, and I thank all of those Kerry for President volunteers who are outside. Hands are cold, determined. Jacqueline, I thank you so much for your introduction and presentation. I want to say something that every member of the Senate understands very well, that Michigan is represented with two of the best, with Carl Levin and Debbie Savinow. You are a lucky state. You are a lucky state. You are a lucky state. And the list goes on. But I thank you, Michigan, for the difference that you make with these extraordinary senators. We saw it yesterday in the Armed Services Committee. Carl Levin getting to the basic truth about our foreign policy. Carl Levin does such a great job. And we are, as Dan and others have mentioned, coming really into the final hours before the great state of Michigan. The major industrial state will have an opportunity to express themselves in terms of the Democratic primary. And I'm here today to urge all of you to take this seriously, because it is serious. It is going to make an important decision. The eyes of the nation and of the world are going to be on Michigan. Yes, they'll be on these 7 states next Tuesday night, and yes, they'll probably be on the debate that'll be going on in just a short time when our candidate John Kerry will be meeting with the others. But this is the heartland of the nation. Michigan is an industrial state. The challenges that you have here are the challenges of America. When you look at the challenges of the unemployment, look at the 250,000 jobs that you've lost here in the state of Michigan. Look at the 150,000 jobs, manufacturing jobs, that have gone out of not only this country, but also disappeared far overseas. We have looked at the challenge of our economy. Read the governor's State of the State address. What does she talk about? Restoring the economy here in the state of Michigan. We want a president who is going to work with her and help restore the economy of the state of Michigan. Let me share with you just one of the blazing, unforgettable moments of this campaign. and that was out in the state of Iowa, when a young Special Forces officer, Jim Roswell, who had been in the Special Forces on John Kerry's boat, lost overboard during the patrol through the Mekong Delta as a result of a mine blast. They didn't know he was knocked over immediately, but they saw that he was knocked over about 150, 175 yards. John spun that boat around, went back, even though he was wounded himself, even in spite of the Viet Cong fire that was taking place all around him, picking out pieces of that boat, reached over and helped lift Jim back into that boat to safety and security. John Kerry will leave no man behind. He'll leave no man behind. And you know, what's interesting about that story is not only the personal bravery and courage that was demonstrated that line, but the fact that he will not leave people behind. When he is nominated and elected president, he will not leave these children behind in the education system of the state of Michigan and the state of the country. He will not leave workers behind with good jobs and good payments and a secure future in terms of the pension. He will not leave the senior citizens of Michigan behind when they pay those outrageous prescription drug bills. He won't leave you behind. He never has left people behind. And when he says all of us will move together, everyone will move together, that's what Michigan wants. That's what John Kerry stands for. So we have seen this movement that has taken place across Iowa and through New Hampshire and now here in the state of Michigan on February 7th. And when I think, my friends, as I listened to Jacqueline say that she was proud of the energy that was and the support, and she was proud to be a Democrat. You know what I was thinking on the floor of the United States Senate just yesterday? I'm proud of that too. And let me tell you why. Let me tell you why. Let me give you 3 reasons why you're here this evening and why you're going to be there on February 7th. We know, we hear these pronouncements by the President Bush, State of the Union. Everything is hunky-dory in terms of our economy. Is that true? Is it true in Michigan? That's what we heard. And if we had heard that, they would say you're very poorly behaved at the State of the Union address. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. We have seen that the jobs that are replacing the lost jobs are paying 22% less in terms of the income for those workers. State of New Hampshire, 35%. John Kerry is down in South Carolina. They've lost the most jobs per population. Michigan is the 3rd largest state with the 3rd largest number of jobs that are lost. You have thousands, tens of thousands of workers here in the state of Michigan that have worked hard and played by the rules and paid into the unemployment insurance fund. For 11 times, I have and my colleagues have tried to get an extension of the unemployment insurance funds which these workers have contributed. That fund is $20 billion in surplus. The cost of 13 weeks of unemployment insurance is $7 billion. That was the purpose for the unemployment insurance funds. And what is happening? You have thousands and thousands of Michigan workers every week that are losing. 90,000 across this country and thousands in the state of Michigan. And when the Democrats say, let's extend the unemployment insurance, the Bush administration and Republican leadership say absolutely no, 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 no. Well, we're going to say no, no, no to them on Election Day. You can be sure of that. Let me give you another. Let me tell you how it is. It's been 7 years since we've increased the minimum wage, affecting more than 7 million people, 400,000 people here in the state of Michigan, 400,000 people that work hard, play by the rules, men and women of dignity, people that clean the great buildings, teachers' aides, work in our nursing homes, men and women of dignity that are trying to skip by, usually with 2 or 3 jobs at the minimum wage level. We haven't increased it in 7 years. 70% of those that receive the minimum wage are women. More than half of those women have children. This is a women's issue. It's a children's issue. It's a civil rights issue. Because so many of those men and women are men and women of color. This is, most of all, it's a fairness issue. Americans believe if you work 40 hours a week, 52 weeks a year, in the richest country in the world, you should not live in poverty. That's what John Kerry believes. That's what I believe. And that is what the people of Michigan believe. Let me give you the third and the end of this. What did you know? Just a few months ago, our Republican friends and the President put out a rule to prohibit overtime for 8 million workers in this country. Evidently, they feel that these workers are making too much. Evidently, they feel the principal problem with our economy is the fact that firefighters, police officers, nurses, the bases of Homeland Security are being overpaid. And listen to this. We considered this issue on the floor of the Senate, and we defeated it. They considered it in the House of Representatives, and they defeated it. But this administration and this president wanted this provision so badly that he insisted that it be snuck into what they call the omnibus behind closed doors and the dead of night. And beyond that, listen to this. For the first time, they've added ineligible for overtime those who have served in the military and have technical skills. Thank you to our fine soldiers and sailors who are over in Iraq or in Afghanistan. They are members of the National Guard or the Reserve. They come on back and their employer says, President Bush said, you acquired skills when you were in the military. You are not going to receive overtime. Shame, I say, on this administration. If you talk about working men and women, this administration has turned its back time in and time out. And John Kerry is going to turn our back on this administration on election day. So, you name it. Education and health care. What I say to you tonight, what I say to you this evening, in just about a year from today, short about 2 weeks, there'll be an individual that'll stand up at the Capitol and raise his hand and give the oath of office to preserve and protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. There is one candidate, only one candidate, by training and tradition, by commitment to the security of this nation, whose knowledge of foreign affairs, whose genuine compassion, whose steadfastness and tough-mindedness is qualified to take that oath of office, and it's John Kerry. It's John Kerry. So I say to you, remember this. I say to you, remember this. Just remember this. February 7th is the date. Michigan is the state. John Kerry, our candidate. Will you